Hello friends, it's Greg here again on the Blue Feather Ephemera channel. I have an eBay store by the same name where I sell vintage magazine print advertising. 3 weeks ago, I explained that in light of the July 13th postal rate increase, I was thinking that I might have to increase my flat rate shipping price. And then last week, I told you that I did a completely opposite thing. What I did is I changed my store shipping policy from flat rate shipping of $4.77 to free shipping. And I was hoping that the eBay algorithm and the customers would respond favorably. Today we get our first look at the reaction, so let's dive into it. This first ad is a 1958 advertisement for San Moritz Hotel in New York City. I sold it for $7.77. Now we're going to break down the numbers and I'll explain to you how the format of this video is going to work. After I show each ad, then you'll see an analysis screen like you're looking at right now. That big number 1 at the top, that's just for my reference to help my senile mind keep track of where we are. On the left side, you'll see the e-profit breakdown, and because that's on the left, that's the base price. Where you don't see anything on the right side, that means that this ad sold for the base price. And we're going to go from the cheapest ads up through the ads that had the greatest return on investment. And there's 27 altogether in 23 different transactions. According to my updated tables last week, this right here that we're looking at is the only ad that I sold this week for minimum price. Yes, I had 10 that sold for the base price, but this is the minimum return on investment here because this ad is the perfect storm of conditions to bring me the lowest price I could possibly get. 54 cents of packing materials plus $4.80 because it's going to Zone 8 in California, and that's as expensive as it gets for a domestic ad sale for me. $7.77 was the price I charged, zero shipping, $5.34 cost to ship, and so I only made 77 cents on this ad, which results in a return on investment of 13.69%. There was a tie for number 2, and the first one we're going to look at is Lathrop boat engines from 1950. I sold this one for $7.77. To understand what I'll be driving at as we look at these, let's pay attention to this one. $7.77. It's the same price as the last ad. This is the smallest size of ad that I ship in a 4x6 container, and so the packing material is still 54 cents. However, it didn't go to the West Coast, which would have cost more. This went to Michigan, and for that reason, the shipping was only $4.35 of postage, plus the 54 cents of materials, $4.89 cost to ship. That made my margin on this a little bit better, $1.22, which works out to a 23% return on investment. This is a small little Christmas ad from 1950. It's for the Oxford Boatyard, Oxford, Maryland. I sold it for $7.77. Remember, right now you're not seeing anything on the right side of the screen because this is a base price ad. The ads that I sold for a higher price because I added a premium to the base cost, when I get to those ads, that's what the right side of the screen is for. Right now, you're looking at $7.77 to sell, 54 cents to pack, $4.35 to mail to Zone 4. These numbers are identical to the last ad. Here's your regular reminder of why we say that vintage print ads are long tail items, and that's because this one you're looking at has been for sale for over 3 years, and it just took the right buyer to come along. This is an ad for Murine Eye Wash, and it shows a man in his pajamas with a toothbrush. Now, I know this has been for sale for over 3 years. I know that for a couple of reasons. First of all, I updated my SKU system in June of 2024. That was 13 months ago. And so we know this ad has been for sale for longer than that. That video talking about my SKU system explains how I use a date code in the SKU, and I'll link that video at the top of the page. But also in the format of the title where it has vintage print ad and the year first, I only did that for my first 500 or so listings back in the early days of 2022. And so I know it's at least that old. Anyway, I sold this ad for $9.77. Now we'll look at the numbers for this ad. Now this is another base price ad. This is one that I did not attach a premium to because we're talking about Murine Eye Wash for tired red eyes. And that's not something that really grabs the attention of folks seeking out interesting material. And so I only made $1.80 on this, about a 28% return on investment. Here's a second ad with the same title characteristic, listed more than 3 years ago. I know because of the format of the title with the vintage print ad year first. This is 1949 K&B model airplane engines of Bell Gardens, California. And they have engines listed here called the Infant and the Torpedo and the Glowtorp. I sold this for $9.77. Here are the numbers for the fifth ad. And if you're like me and just enjoy seeing these old ads, and if you're interested in what actually sold, continue to watch here. But you can see that the numbers are continuing to tick up a little bit. This was $2.06 of profit on this ad, 34% return on investment. But if you're interested in seeing the larger returns, you can skip on ahead in the video. Here's a 1942 ad for Myers Dark Rum, and it shows a fellow there relaxing with his cocktail. And I was contacted by the customer, and they wanted to know if I could do better on price. And I sent a short note to explain that to help with price, I had just transitioned to free shipping. Also, I used quality shipping materials, and I shipped it tracked. And so my margins weren't great enough to allow for any kind of a discount on the price, and she was understanding. She bought the ad anyway, and she's already left positive feedback. I sold this ad for $9.77. I should have mentioned too that the Scottish Terrier, that little Scotty dog that's in the advertisement and the mention of it in the title of the listing, is why this ad was found and why it sold. The profit margin was $2.51. That was a 45% return on investment. Here's a 1950 ad for a yacht by Palmer Johnson. It's called the Gal-O-Gallee of Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin. And I sold this ad for $11.77. For this seventh ad, I can tell you that the numbers for the 8th, 9th, and 10th ads, all four of them have the same numbers to look at. That's $3.53 of profit and a 57% return on investment. The next advertisement happens to be another yacht. And this comes from the very same 1950 magazine as the last one. And the advertiser here is Douglas and McLeod of Painesville, Ohio. They're showing you a boat design called a Thistle. And this design was so popular that it was licensed to several manufacturers and it was mass produced. I sold this ad for $11.77. Here are the same numbers for that advertisement, which breaks down to $11.77 on the sale, $5.90 cost to ship, which includes $1.21 for materials and $4.69 for postage. The advertising company here is called Honor House of Lynbrook, New York. Now, that doesn't mean a lot because you can tell by the name, this is just a small import business that does mail order sales. This is not a major manufacturer of this product, but what they're advertising is an 8mm projector called a flash projector, and you can see that it's showing a lady in a bathing suit here. Now, in Nugget magazine in 1960, you got to think about who the audience is. This is just a way to sotto voce imply that a fellow can watch his stag films using this projector. I sold this ad for $11.77. Here's the numbers. This is the third of 4 ads that I sold for the same price, same shipping cost, $3.53 of profit, and 57% ROI. This last ad that I sold for the base price that I would put on an ad of its size is for the Schick injector razor blades, and this comes from 1946. The ad focuses on the challenges the company met by changing from peacetime to wartime production and then back to post-war production. And I sold this for $11.77 to a satisfied buyer who called this a cool piece of history. This is the 10th ad we've looked at. You see 7 on the screen because the numbers for 7, 8, 9, and 10 are all the same. We don't need to go over it again. But from here on out, you're going to see gradually increase in numbers as the return on investment grows for ads that I did not put the base price on. I put a premium price on because of the content. So let's take a look at those now. Ad number 11 here is for the Santa Fe Railroad, and they're offering daily Pullman service to California, and they're encouraging you to visit the Grand Canyon along the way. Now, this is an ad that I would typically price in the ballpark of about $20 plus shipping back when I was charging shipping. However, I did do comps on this, and there was about 15 of these up for sale, so I had to price it down in the middle of the pack, $14.77. This is where these number screens start to look a little bit different. On the left side, you can see what the result would have been had I priced the ad at its base price based on size. But on the right side, you can see that I added $2 of premium value to this ad when I put it up for sale at $14.77. And that means that I had $1.97 of shipping cost and $5.34 of postage, making my total cost to ship $7.31. Now, that gave me a result of $4.69 of profit and a 62% return on investment. This ad from 1942 is for Theodore Haviland, and it says you're going to find less of their products in the stores because they're busy making cups, saucers, and other dinnerware for the troops. I sold this one for $14.77. Again, on the left side, you see costs and returns. Had I sold it at the base price, I would put on an ad like this. But on the right side, you see the actual return on investment. And that for this piece was $5.38 of profit, 78% return on investment. This advertisement from 1953 for La Choy Beatrice Foods claims that Chinese food is a delightful departure from the regular course of steaks, chops, and roasts. I'm a little bit skeptical. I like my steaks and chops and roasts. However, this was a cool advertisement. I put $4 of premium on it and charged $11.77. Here are the numbers on this one. This ad is the smallest size. It would have shipped in 4x6 materials. Had I sold it for the base price, I would have made 97 cents, 17% return on investment. But with the $4 of premium, I made $4.29, and that's a 79% return on investment. In the video that I made about a week ago, where I talked about the base price that I put on advertising, I didn't mention premium valuations at all. So what do I mean by that? I'm going to pause right here and mention that a premium valuation just means when I look at an ad, I determine whether it's worth more than the base price. And that's based on several different factors that I talk about in a video that I made a little bit over a year ago called Boost Your Income. I'm going to link it at the top of the page here. Here's an ad for Dash laundry detergent from 1956. It's a product of Procter & Gamble. These ladies are attending a demonstration where they're learning how the detergent can get their clothes cleaner in an automatic washing machine. At the top it says, "Look, gals." And I just wanted to bring that up because I used to say gals all the time. And then somebody told me that in modern vernacular, it's just not socially acceptable to use that word anymore. I didn't know. I had no idea. But anyway, I applied $4 of premium value to this ad and sold it for $16.77. On this dash ad, I used 11 by 14 packing materials. Cost me $1.97. The postage was $5.51, so total shipping cost was $7.48. And my profit on this was $6.23 for an 80% return on investment. This advertisement from 1984 is for the French perfume company called Guerlain. The product here is Mitsouko Oriental Impressions Perfume. And this is an 8.5 by 11 ad that I put $3 of premium on. I apologize for continuing to reference earlier videos, but one of my favorites that I've done in recent months, back at the beginning of the year, I did one called Yes, Yes, But Are You Selling Globally? And I think that's one of my best videos, and it had good response from viewers. But in it, I talk about the eBay Global Shipping Program and how easy it is. And I bring that up now because this ad right here is an international sale. Now, I have a little bit of advantage, I feel like, because I'm located relatively close to the domestic shipping hub for the Global Shipping Program. It's located in Illinois. For me, that is a postal zone 2 zip code. It's relatively cheap for me to get an ad from here to there where it goes into the international mail stream. So anyway, these are the numbers for this ad right here. 8.5 by 11. I packed it for $1.21, and $4.89 was the postage I paid. So $6.10 of shipping cost, and I made $5.90 net for a 92% return on investment. From 1960, here's a good looking ad for Roquefort Cheese, and it's made in France. And on the butcher's block table there, you see all the makings of a fine looking salad. I attributed $3 of premium value to this ad and sold it for $14.77. The numbers on that look like this: $6.05 of net profit and 97% return on investment. This ad went to Spain through the eBay Global Shipping Program, and I attributed $3 of premium value to this ad. From Canada, it is the Pure Gold Maple Leaf Legal Tender Coin, $14.77. $4.69 to ship this to Illinois, plus the $1.21 of packing materials, made the total cost to ship $5.90 on that $14.77 sale. And so $6.10 was the net profit, a 99% return on investment. When I started to compile the content for this video, I didn't realize that I had sold so many ads internationally during that week, but this is number 3. I think there's one more after this one as well. From 1983, this is Frangelico Liqueur. I sold it for $14.77. It went to Australia. The numbers on this show me that I made $6.20 on this sale, and that was a return on investment of 102%. From 1972, I've got an ad for Triton radios made by Modar Electronics from Schaumburg, Illinois. And they're talking about this radio being a special radio for your boat. It's designed for ship-to-shore communications, and it's a solid-state radio. That was a big deal in the 1970s as electronics were transitioning from larger and bulkier vacuum tubes to solid-state components, transistors, and circuitry, and things like that. I sold this for $16.77. This is the 4th international sale. This went to England. You can see here that both profit and return on investment are continuing to grow as I'm getting to these more interesting ads. Now, I put $5 of premium on this ad, even though it's a newer magazine. It's pretty cool content. So I made $7.81 for 127% return. This is an advertisement that's got some psychology involved. And what I mean by that is you see a lot of wartime images of soldiers on a foreign field, on a battlefront, in an airplane, on a boat, or in a submarine. And people can see that and sure, they can feel some things about it. But when you're looking at soldiers boarding a transport ship, there was a lot of Americans there to see those people off as they traveled overseas to fight in the war. And so there's a much greater tie to the emotion that you see here, because there were a lot of people reading these magazines that were in those shoes on the docks watching the servicemen depart. And so for that reason, it's just a stronger image, a better use of advertising space, in my opinion. So that's why I applied $11 of premium value to this ad and sold it for $23.77, a 1942 ad. This Underwood Typewriter ad that talks about taking good care of your office machines because their current production is all going for military and Department of Defense use, War Department use. This 11x14 ad packed at $1.97. The postage was $5.41, and so the total shipping cost was $7.38. That made my net profit on this $12.33, 161% return on investment. In 1942, everybody was involved in the war effort, including this little boy in the ad for Scott Tissues. And of course, their little mascot was a Scottish Terrier as well. Notice a pattern here. Not the same customer as the rum ad though. But in the war effort, this little boy is the cleanup warden. I sold this ad for $16.77. Now this is one of two that went to that customer, so we'll look at the ad separate, but we'll look at the numbers together. A year later in 1943, that little Scotty dog and even more children are still at it. At the top it says, "We want to be drafted too." And so I put $18.77 on this ad. The great thing about selling multiple ads to a customer, your selling costs don't double. For this sale, these 11x14 ads only took 2 backing boards and 2 sleeves, but only 1 stay flat mailer and 1 mailing label. And so $3.09 was the total cost of materials. The postage does not double either. As a matter of fact, it went up from the under 12 ounce postage range to the under 16 ounce postage range. Just cost me about $1 more for that. So $9.62 was the total cost of the mailing costs on that. $20.17 was the profit for a 204% rate of return. These next 2 ads went to the same customer, and they're both for Jose Cuervo Gold Tequila, and it gave this one from 1977 gave me a strong sense of nostalgia, not because of the booze, but because of the pool tables featured in both ads. Now, I got my first wage job when I was 14, and during all of my high school years, if I wasn't at school, I was usually at work, and if I wasn't at school or work, then I was shooting pool in the back room of a local gas station. We called it the pool hall, where they had a couple of pay tables down there. And I would hang out down there with my brother and some other teenagers, and then a bunch of guys in their 30s, 40s, even folks up into their 80s. And all of us guys that would hang out at the pool hall, just an eclectic bunch of dudes, I enjoyed those years and I enjoyed those times. hanging out with those older folks and hearing their stories. Anyway, this real cool ad here, $16.77. This other Cuervo Gold ad from the 1980s features Kirstie Alley, and she's getting a lot more attention than that last guy did. He had to shoot pool by himself, but she's got a whole passel of fellows around her. $14.77 is the price that I put on this ad, which seems a little bit backwards. Her being a celebrity and having that tie in the ad, maybe I should have priced this up a little bit, but I sold it for $14.77. As we look at these two ads together, it's a little bit of an anomaly because I made net about 50 cents less. However, these are 8.5 by 11 ads. The last two we looked at was 11 by 14 ads that sold for a higher price. However, the materials cost is significantly less here, and the postage is as well. And so even though I made a little bit less, $19.41 net, the return on investment is quite a bit higher at 269%. All of these last three ads are nearly identical, and they went to the same customer. And we're talking about a span of years, I think here from 1976 to 78 or 79, maybe just 77, but they were all in the same publication, just different months. These are Tiffany and Company trophies. These are custom-made trophies for various horse racing events. I saw Santa Anita there specifically, but I think there may be one or two other races mentioned as well. But it's an ad for Tiffany and Company. All three of these I priced at $16.77. Here's the analysis of the numbers for that sale. Again, all three ads to the same customer. That means I used 3 backboards and 3 sleeves, but only 1 mailer and 1 shipping label. So the total cost for shipping was $2.31 of materials and $5.51 of postage, totaling $7.82. And the sale price of the ads was $50.31, and my net profit was $34.62. That's a 429% return on investment. We'll look at these numbers while I wrap up, and I want to say I have trouble with succinct statements, so I'm going to rely on Lost Treasures Return. They are a viewer who commented on last week's video. They made the point, and I'm paraphrasing here, I don't want to work harder for less income. I don't even want to work harder for the same amount of income. I want to significantly increase volume so that the revenue it generates will more than cover what I'm losing with the free shipping policy. That's the whole point of this test. Now, this is a 1-week look, and I thought it'd be fun to do. It's been time consuming. I'll talk about that in a minute, but I enjoy looking at the numbers like this. I hope you got a kick out of it too. I'm not going to look again until probably after the end of August, maybe not even until September. I want August data to compare to June, and I want September data to compare to May. Because I initiated this change during the month of July, I'm not going to bother to include any July sales information in those month versus month looks. But once I do that, I've still got time to make changes in shipping policies if I need to before the fourth quarter kicks in. With eBay's bulk editing tools, I can change that shipping policy over for all of my ads within about 30 or 45 minutes. So it's not a big deal to change back. It was a leap of faith, but mechanically, what I had to do didn't take much time at all. Now, the other thing I wanted to say, I spend about 20 hours a week of time maintaining my eBay store. That's listing, packing, shipping, trips to the post office, store maintenance, creating sales campaigns, also ordering supplies. I'm not doing any sourcing these days. I've got plenty enough stock on hand, but 20 hours a week is what I spend. I derived a net income of $162.88, and that's barely $8 an hour. And after I pay Uncle Sam, it's going to be much less than that. So, you know, making a at least a minimum wage, that's not really important to me because I'm enjoying what I'm doing and I am deriving an income that's helpful in my budget. And so but now I do want to increase my income, and that's the whole point of this. So I hope you enjoyed taking this look at this with me. I'm not going to do another labor intensive video like this until those additional months of data come in, because I spent more time this past week making a video than I did working on eBay. And so it is labor intensive, but I hope you enjoyed seeing these numbers. I hope you got a kick out of this. 27 sales, $374, $162.88 of net income, which is roughly 43% of my gross revenue for the week of June the 15th to the 21st. Well, that's it for now. I appreciate you watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment, even if it's just a friendly hello. I always love to hear from you. Bye for now.